it's the Faithful Fairy, and today we're going to be talking about the giving and receiving of criticism. Criticism. It's a topic that's really tough to talk about. One thing that I found in my life is I really have a hard time accepting criticism. So today we're going to be talking about the giving and receiving of criticism, how it can be very helpful if you really think about it before you give the criticism, and if you look at how to receive it on the other end of it. So I have kind of a unique position because I am a teacher and I give a lot of criticism to my students. I work with musicians, and so all the time I might have to say, that note is not in tune, or you need to use more bow, or play with a different bow stroke or something like that. I teach violin, and one of those things is naturally giving criticism as a teacher. So I thought we'd make a bullet point of 4 items in the giving of criticism and 4 items in the receiving of criticism to think about today. Now, when we talk about the giving and receiving of criticism, I'm going to have 4 bullet points when I'm talking about these. And you'll see as I'm talking about this that they're very mirrored. That when I talk about the giving of criticism and the receiving of criticism, that many of the points really go together. And you can kind of compare the points as we talk about the 2 different aspects of criticism. First of all, on the giving of criticism. The number one thing we have to think about is the motivation behind the critical thing that we're about to say. If we have a student and we really want them to do better, we know that we can help them achieve something that they've been missing. We want to think about the motivation that we have behind it. Obviously, as a teacher, you want your students to excel and do well. So it's a wonderful motivation. It's from the heart that we're trying to motivate them to do better in some aspect of their education. Some people are motivated to criticize because they are jealous of a person, or they might not understand that person's personality. And maybe there's something about that person that just rubs them the wrong way. And so it's easy or natural to be critical of them. So that very first thing you think about before you say the critical idea is, what is my motivation? Is it to help this person, to further them in some way? Or is it just being critical because I don't like that person? I don't understand that person. I am just being negative to be negative. So that's the first thing, motivation. The second thing we need to think about is our timing of criticism. If we know that a student is having a bad day, you see someone come into your class and they are just down and something else has happened during the day, that is not the time to help them with the C sharp on the violin. Okay, that's the time to be compassionate and say, I'm going to hold off on working on that note until a better day. We have to be super careful when we see the timing. And if you know that somebody is already distraught about something else, it's not the time to be critical of them. Now, that's a really hard thing to be aware of, but it's just one of those things. As you're going through and you're getting ready to maybe point something out to somebody, think, are they doing okay? Are they happy? Do you think they'll receive what I have to say? Or is it going to distress them? And of course, we don't want to distress anyone. When we finally determine that our motivation is correct and the timing is good to give a critical thought or to give a corrective thought, next we have to think of our delivery. And one thing I've always found as a teacher, if we praise a student as we're giving them feedback that may be something critical that they need to fix, it often softens the blow of what we're saying critically to them. If we know that we see something that they're doing that is great, I love the way you played out on that piece, or I love the way you structured your paragraph in your English essay. However, let's take a look at grammar. Find the point that you want to work on with them. Give them some praise so that they know that you're there being in their corner. You want to praise them. And then we can start to work on some of the more nitty-gritty things that they need to fix, either if it's music or writing or whatever it is. If we praise them first and be, very genuine in our praise, then I think it helps for the other person to understand where our heart is as well. And finally, when we're giving out criticism, we want to measure it out slowly. You don't want to attack someone with 4 or 5 things that they're doing wrong all at once. Maybe you want to think about it ahead of time. And a lot of times when I'm teaching as a teacher, I think, okay, what's one goal I can work on with my students in a class period? And I kind of focus on that one goal. And I don't try to hammer them with 10 different things that they need to fix all at once. So we want to measure it out as we're giving that criticism. So here are the 4 reminders when we're giving criticism. Number 1, what is our motivation? Is it pure? Is it from the heart? We really want to help that person. Or are we just being snarky or mean? Or I don't know that person. I don't understand that person. Motivation is probably the number 1 thing. Number 2, is it a good time to mention this criticism? Or do they seem distraught about other things that are going on? Number 3, always give them the praise for the good things that they're doing first. And then it's a little easier for us to give them the things that they need to work on. And number 4, measure it out. Don't dump a lot of criticism on a person all at once, but find one point that you know is achievable for them to fix. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the giving of criticism. Now we're going to talk about the receiving of criticism. And as I told you before, this is the part I have to work on. I'm not good at receiving criticism. I am also, I will say this, very critical of my own self when I put things together. And so it's hard for me to get past some of my own criticism. So that's, I think, a little bit of part of my problem is I just keep heaping it on myself. So this is definitely the area that I personally need to work on. Okay, so what are the 4 points of receiving criticism? Number 1, this mirrors our giving. You have to think about the motivation behind the person who is being critical. You have to think, does this person have my best interest at heart? Or is this person just being snarky? They don't understand me. They don't know me. They might not like my personality. You have to think about the motivation behind the person that is being critical. And the times in my life that people have been extra critical of me and I knew their motivation wasn't right then and there, you drop it, you let it go. Water off the duck's back. You don't listen to what they have to say because you know their motivation is not pure. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, really just learning it now, is that when you listen to the person's motivation, if it's for their own good or to make themselves feel better, you've got to let that criticism just go right on down the river. It cannot touch you. Now, if that person is speaking from the heart, and then you have to think, wow, I feel so fortunate and blessed that that person wants to help me overcome in a certain area. Number 2, timing. Sometimes when people come to us with critical thoughts, maybe we are not in the right place to hear them and to respond well to them. So we might want to even do the count to 10 rule, think about it for a little bit before we respond. I tend to be a nuclear responder. I don't know how to fix that. That's something, things hit me and I right away want to react to them. So we have to also think about the timing of the person that gave us the criticism. Maybe even we were talking to them and it wasn't even a good time, to bring a topic up, and then they were critical and they were like, oh, that was a bad time. And then, of course, you realize that the criticism cut to the quick because it wasn't a good time for either person. So the timing of the criticism is super important. And sometimes we don't hear the criticism until after the fact. So it might take an hour for us to think about that criticism. Number 3, when a person gives us praise, take the praise and take it to heart. I always have felt that when someone compliments you, this is a direct word from a higher being, because that person had to think, wow, so-and-so did something really remarkable, and I'm going to compliment on that. And accepting praise is part of the criticism circle, that we have to accept the praise that people give us, and we have to take it to heart, and we have to say, that is valid praise. I am not going to write it off. So this is something we have trouble with accepting as well. A lot of us don't want to hear praise. It's hard for us to accept praise as well. So that's a valid point in our criticism cycle, is accepting the praise we hear from others and then accepting the places that we need to do a little bit better in. Finally, when we do receive criticism, it's important that we take it slowly and think carefully about the criticism that we're given. And usually I find that when I've been given criticism, eventually I figure it out and I say, and I see it in many, many, many different aspects of my life. And most of the time, we are unaware of our flaws. And when somebody points them out, it takes us a little while to accept what they're saying. So I think this is an important thing. I use the count to 10 rule all the time. A lot of times I don't want to respond to things until I have time to think about it. The other thing I like to do is when I know someone's motivation is poor on a criticism of me, I really try to give that the 5-second rule. I don't let that sink down into my soul. I try to 5 seconds, let it go. I'm mad for 5 seconds, and then I let it go, and I don't allow that person to steal my joy. And this is a big part of this, because many people that give us criticism do not give it with the right motivation. So I think that's a huge part of this, is taking it slowly, evaluate it if it's given in a great context. And if not, 5 seconds, you can be as mad as you want, and then you let it go. I hope you'll take some of these thoughts to heart and think about the giving and receiving of criticism and how it's such an important part of our life, and can help us to help others, can help us to grow as people and become better people, and really work well with the people that we are around all of the time. Have a great day.